I'm really glad you guys are able to stick with me. This week has been rather odd. I did not have any internet access yesterday, except for it was kind of, it would work really great for about 30 minutes and then die, then show up for, 45 seconds, just enough for me to complain about it and then die again. So I did not think I was going to be able to do any video yesterday. And then today I was out and about and I was not able to get back until a little bit later. So Emily and Nick, I am really happy you guys are able to show up. So thank you very much. There were a couple of things that I'm noticing. I'm going through. This I'm trying to get everything done and caught up on grading this week for by the time for fall break for next week. We are going to have a meeting, and I may do it as just a separate recording to send to people. If you don't think anybody can show up, but I will. I am planning on doing a meeting for the class next week, even though it is fall break. Now, and I am trying to get everything caught up grade wise so everybody knows where they stand by Wednesday, when we do the meeting. There are a couple of things that I'm noticing that I should let you guys know about. For everybody watching this meeting, one thing is I hope everybody has seen the video that I made about carving one of these things and how to apply paper mache on it. One thing I'm seeing is that people are not getting that this needs to be smooth and organic. And a couple people do, and they said, "Well, we're having a hard time because I can only sandblast it so much; it still feels rough." A couple people have said that. Well, what we want to do is get it as consistently smooth as possible, even with the sandpaper the way it is. The surface is going to feel a little bit bumpy, but it is going to be a lot smoother than otherwise. One of the problems that I'm seeing is that people will carve it a little bit, say it's done, but it still feels like a block, or they'll carve a broad shape out of it and it'll be done, and it's not. What we want is something that's a biomorphic organic form. um, so looking at the videos in that biomorphic uh, abstraction module that's about the carving, watching all those videos from the other artists in the background section is really, really important. um, and I'm getting the what what can be frustrating as a student is when you go right to the module portion that says assignment and start doing the assignment. If you don't get all the background information that the teacher gives you, can be really confusing for you. And I don't want you guys to go through that trauma. And so you need to go through each of the module sections before getting to the actual assignment. So, and that will help bring it up before. The forms that I'm looking at are like teeth and stuff like that. And I'm wondering if it's okay with you guys. I want people to watch this over the weekend. Give me permission to show images of your stuff to the whole class. If you've already put it up on the discussion board, I'll do that. But I want to email everybody and let them know, hey, this is where the shape is looking good, and if it doesn't look like that, then you need to push it a little bit further. And one thing that or something that I really need to stress too is that when you guys see a grade, if it's not the points that you want, you can always resubmit. You can always work on the assignment a little bit more and then resubmit it. Several people have done that, and oddly enough, it makes their grade better. Um, and sometimes if the images aren't really good and I don't know what I'm seeing, you get a lower grade than what you earn. And it just takes you emailing me and say, hey, this is what I was doing, this is why the pictures doesn't look right, and then you get more points. So if you're a little bit frustrated with the grading, look at the comments that I've made and see if that helps, and if it doesn't, email me and ask me for more clarification. It's one of the things that is kind of funny to me is that sometimes what is two of the most common issues is you're turning in things and you just submit the wrong file to the wrong assignment. And the other most common thing is you don't read all the way through the directions. So don't get upset or anything if you don't get the points that you want. Just read my comments and resubmit when you need to. Or if you think you've done everything that I said that you need to do, let me know and I'll look at it again. And sometimes it just takes somebody pointing that out to me. So I hope that is clear. Uh, when I was talking about having a rough texture when you're sandpapering, what's going to happen is you're going to use the sandpaper to get it as smooth as you can. You're still going to get a bumpy texture, a little bit of a bumpy texture, because that's the nature of the foam. And when you start applying the paper mache, that's when everything will smooth out. So about 4 of you emailed me about that, and I really appreciate you guys doing that because I'm responding to you now through the video. All right. So if you are sandpapering your thing, your biomorphic abstraction, and it visually it looks smooth, but it feels bumpy or it feels what's the word, kind of furry when you sand it, that's fine. You just get it as smooth as you can, and when you apply the paper mache and smooth the paper mache out, that is actually going to all right, we'll see you in a minute, Nick. That is actually going to resolve the problem. So the going over with the paper mache. The paper mache, the ingredients that you get in the kit are just flour and wood glue. And if you need to make more, that's what you make. Again, when you clean up, do not, under any circumstances, dump that down the sink. You want to work on a surface with a garbage sack so that you can put everything in the garbage sack when you're all done and throw it away. You don't want to wash anything down the sink. That will clog up the plumbing and people get really mad at you, especially if you're using like your parents' basement sink or something like that. That can get people really upset. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about the texture thing too. But last week I asked a couple people to put in their artistic critique work and their video. Now, one thing that I want you to understand is that a person who doesn't understand the assignment and turns in something completely wrong, you can still take and critique their work. That is totally fine. And this, of course, is just a hypothetical. Regardless of whether or not they do an assignment, the assignment correctly or follow the assignment directions. The assignment for doing your critiquing your own work or critiquing somebody else's work, you get points for doing the critique. It's not points for whatever the object looks like. All right. So, and I've had students really concern themselves over this. Honestly, it could be anything that you critique. You could, close your eyes and grab something random from your closet. But for this class, I want you to have the experience talking about your own work that you're doing for this class and somebody else's work. Whether or not you feel that work is successful doesn't have anything to do with the grade you get for the critique. The critique comes directly from the grade for the critique comes directly from whether or not you're doing a good job critiquing whatever the object is. And I was going to try to pull up a video. I'm seeing two videos, and these are the two turned in. So of course this person is going to get extra credit because they turned stuff in a little bit early, and this is great. Whatever the score is for the critique does not reflect whether or not I like or even know about the art that's being critiqued. That doesn't matter. what it does matter is that this person has done 2 critiques using the 4 tools of artistic critique. One critique is for some work that they made themselves, and one critique is for work that somebody else has made. Now, I've just published them on our page, and I'm going to give everybody links, but I want to play. I want to play both of these, and then we'll talk about them. And this person, like I said, turn them in early so they're getting extra credit, and you can too. There's room for extra credit for the first 3 self critiques and the first 3 critiques of somebody else's work. And I'm just setting this up so we can listen to it online. And let's see. Emily, if you are able to get to any sort of a moment where you can respond, I'd like you to let me know if you can hear this, or Nick, either one of you. That would be great. So I've set these videos up. Now I'm going to see if we can try to watch them, so you can get an sample, or an idea rather, of how these critiques work. So let's see. All right, hopefully you guys can see this. Okay, can Nick and Emily, could you hear that? Just the initial first word or two?
Yeah. Can you hear me though?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you just fine. All right,
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and play this, and we're just going to listen to it.
This is the project for wire sculpture, which was in the defining volumetric form with line module. That was a couple weeks ago. For the description of this artwork, this wire sculpture, there are 2 different main subjects. There is a taller individual, which is the man that is looking downward. His back is somewhat arched backward and is standing. The other subject is the shorter one, which is the woman that is in this longer, larger gown, and it's flowing backward, almost like a train. For when gowns they flow backward in what they call a train, which is like a tail almost. And then for how this piece was put together, uh, through bending the wire in different ways to acquire different shapes, and cutting it to have the desired length, and just continuing to shape it in the matter that I wanted it to look after all the different manipulations of twirling it, such as in the waist area. There's a lot more coils there as compared to the gown that is a lot more singular, a lot less bulky, and it's just individual lines compared to their bodies, and especially the man's head that has a little bit more weight to it and has more wired that is almost crumpled up into a ball. As you can see from the shadow, the darker parts that are more clumped together are the head, the waist areas compared to the individual legs or the stem or the gown. And then I decided to go ahead of this piece because there was something, I don't know, there was something alluring to this idea when I started sketching it out. I just was really attracted to this idea of it almost looks like the woman is falling and the man is like holding her up. There can be many different interpretations, as his back is arched backward, and the lady, she almost looks like she's falling, and the man has his arm wrapped around her, which is the piece of wire that's extended outward is the arm. So and I love this picture because it almost looks like they're dancing with their specifically with their shadows. It appears as almost like they're dancing. But my interpretation of it, although it can be different from others that look at this, is that it's almost like the woman is falling into the man and he is catching her. And she has this long dress that's behind her and it's flowing behind her because she is falling. So she's falling into him. And I just love the idea. As to whether it was successful or not, I believe this piece was successful to the point that you can tell what it is, and you can somewhat tell the meaning behind it if you take a closer look. Although I do believe that this could have been done better, that the forms could have been solidified more with more wire wrapped around the bodies to make it appear like a bulkier, just a bulkier art piece instead of it being like a singular line of wire, and it leaves more guessing up to the audience, leaving it to be more subjective. So it does complete the goal of like a couple dancing or a woman falling, but it could have been done better, so the audience wouldn't have to guess as much, and that could have been done by adding more wire, so there's less negative space.
Okay, I think. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Can I stop sharing? Okay, I think that is Emily. If you're able to get on at all, uh, did you hear that whole thing? Were you able to hear that? Nick, did you hear it? I'm sorry. What was Nick? Were you able to hear the video?
Yeah, I was trying to unmute myself, but the mic mute button on my microphone kept remuting me. Yes, it was being so annoying. It's done that for the past year or so since I've taken college. Yes, I was able to hear it.
Okay, good. All right. Now, there's a couple of things that I really want to point out. First is this is an exceptionally well done artistic critique of somebody else's own work. She, Catalina did an exceptional job. While they were talking, you could hear them switching from each across each of the four steps of those tools of artistic critique. The first one is describe, the second one is analyze, the third is interpret, and the fourth is evaluate. She described, or Catalina described the shapes that they saw, how the wire was moving around. They described a bit about, excuse me, the shadow on the wall. They described quite a bit about the different forms that were involved. And that was just exactly right. Even talking about the materials that were being used. The second, oh, Nick, and now your mic is still on. Now, okay, now it's muted. Excellent. The second step, analyze. Catalina talked about how the wire was bent and moved. Different areas were strengthened with thicker areas of wire. Different areas were more open up because of thinner areas of wire. And then the third interpretation, they spoke quite a bit about the flowing lines, what the flowing lines could mean, what the different focal points could mean. And then evaluation, they were pretty brutally honest on their own work. And that's, I don't think you need to be as brutal to yourself necessarily. Um, I think that you guys, when you do this, try to do a better job pretending that it's not your work. But I think Catalina did one of the best examples of self-critique that I've seen in quite a while. So that this is an excellent initial foray, and I will include this in the attendance video portion of this class, and you'll need to for attendance points for this class, you'll just write. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but you'll need to watch both of those videos that Catalina has done, so you can see what the critique does. And I am looking again for 2 volunteers to do them for next week, so we can go over that again and review them again, because I think that's valuable. Now, so this is that was an excellent example of self-critique. Now I have not watched this before, so I hope that Catalina does not have any really bad swears in this. I'm very glad to see that she didn't use a lot of nasty swears in this other one. But on this video we're going to watch, it will be Catalina critiquing somebody else's work. All right. So whatever the critique is, it's not reflective of the grade or anything. And this particular work looks to me like the artist that submitted it did not finish it. And that's for the critique, that is totally fine. When you're critiquing, though, you're going to pretend that it is finished. So even if you're doing your own work and it's not done, you can still critique it and pretend that it is done. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. And I'm going to go ahead and start this so we can hear it.
Okay, so this is a project from the Carved Biomorphic Abstraction discussion. This is created by Nick Sutton. I hope I said his name right. So this appears to be, at first glance, it looks like a lightning bolt, which was probably intended, but it's not exactly a lightning bolt. It has a different form than the stereotypical one that you might see in pictures or clip art, or even the Harry Potter symbol on the forehead that's become very famous. It looks something somewhat similar to that, even though it doesn't have the exact shape. It has the jagged endings pointing out in different directions, and it is carved out of the pink purplish styrofoam block that we were given. Yeah. Okay, and then for how it was put together, just as we were instructed for the carved biomorphic abstraction, this project was just shaved down from the initial block that we were given. It was at first just a smooth, large block of styrofoam, and the artist shaved it down quite a bit, and getting some areas to be very straightforward and very smooth, and other areas being very jagged and not exactly a straight line as other lines have been. And then for my best guess to interpret this is that I'm not sure, but my guess would be that it's almost like a symbol of power. When I think of a lightning bolt, I think of someone that's powerful, someone that has like innate abilities that catches people's eye. Like this automatically caught my eye. So I think it's somewhat a symbol of power or of strength, definitely the opposite of weakness. And it's very bold and popping out of you, like involving the audience by popping out. And it does this because it is a relief sculpture, and the property of it jumping out like that and being carved from the block and not being removed as many of the other projects were, give it a very strong presence, a very strong presence that can't be ignored by the audience. And for the valuation, I believe that this piece was definitely very successful. I personally really enjoy this piece. I'm not sure why, but it just really resonates with me. I just love the different lines, going from a straight line to a jagged line to a diagonal line, and the different forms of lines, and even using like negative space of not filling in the other areas because it's a relief sculpture and carving it out of the block. I think that this piece was done excellently. I just love this piece so much, for the different lines and for the mainly the unique shape and being carved from outside the block that just really grabs audience's attention.
All right, give me just a second here.
Can you hear me?
All right, I can hear you now. Could you hear that? There's a little bit of a problem with the sound.
Yeah, I did. To be perfectly honest, this project, on the back of the styrofoam, I actually had started one. I had like taken one of my past drawings, and I had like done like, those like when you those like papers where you like poke into them or like draw to make a picture. That's sort of done, but it
Oh
looked,
yeah, okay, I know what you're saying.
yeah, so it looked bad. So I flipped it to the other side and did something completely out of the box. I shaved it downwards. I didn't cut it out. I didn't separate it. Originally, yes, it was supposed to be a lightning bolt, but I cut the lightning bolt a little too short. So now it just looks like a random man running for his life.
Well, and that doesn't have much to do with what I was trying to show, but yeah, it looks like what you're still working on that. But what I was hoping for people to see was that Catalina, again, another really good example of somebody applying the tools of artistic critique. Now, Nick, as you were listening to Catalina talk about your work, did you hear when she switched from one tool to the next tool when she was using each of those tools?
Yeah, actually,
Did
I
you?
did.
Yeah,
I
she went from describe, and then the next one she started talking about how the artist may have done it, and then the third one, interpret. That's when she started talking about lightning bolt and power symbol, and then she switched to whether or not their evaluation. So yeah, I thought, and that's the important part of this whole process. I wanted you guys to see that, and I think that they did a really good job
I
on
agree as well.
on the evaluation.
Mind
Okay,
if I say something real quick?
sure.
Um, when she said my sculpture or my work represented as a power symbol, I didn't think of it that way. But then since she said that in the evaluation, it actually opened, I don't know, like a whole new lens for me because I normally pick the lightning bolt because of my favorite character of DC character, the Flash, because of what his symbol means. So I'm half glad I got that through and half surprised. I'll shut up now.
No, that's great. That's just fine. I'm sorry about that. I was typing something really quick so I could get it out of my mind. Oh, who was it? Earl Nightingale, who was 1950s, 1960s. He was kind of a new age guru. One of the things he said was that ideas are like tiny silver fish. If you don't stab them quick with the tip of your pen, they will flit away forever. And so one thing I've been trying to do, if I get an idea, is either sketch it out or type it down or write it down somehow as fast as I can so that it doesn't flit away and disappear forever. But I think that this week's class is probably going to be a little bit short because what I need to do is give feedback on people's biomorphic abstraction carvings because I think that people are kind of losing sight of what this was about. Um, not everybody, but just some people, and I think some people will need a little bit more direction than others. But like I said, you should see all that by the end of this weekend. And I know that there are some people that are really freaking out about due dates and things like that, and we've talked multiple times about that. This is still something that we've got to feel out and make sure that everybody's comfortable with and everybody has enough time. The rest of the semester, the way it looks is we're going to be finishing up the biomorphic abstraction and paper mache. We're doing something about texture and color. We talked about that last week. We're going to talk about that a little bit this week. I want people to fiddle with that and play with it and have some fun with that as well. And then we're going to be taking a break from our sculpture stuff and looking at conceptual art. That's what we're going to be talking about next week. And then we're going to go back and work on 3D stuff some more. I'm also going to be putting up the next module for the service learning. And again, I'm like 95% sure that everybody who picked either service learning or research, and I'm sorry, what I mean is you either do the research or the service learning. And I'm going to put up the next module for that this next week, and or this week. And what is really important to remember, I have tried to make sure that everybody who is doing one or the other is only graded for the activities in one or the other. So if you have elected to do service learning, you should only be graded for the service learning project elements. You should not be held accountable for the research. If you have chosen the research learning, you are not, or the research project, you are not going to be held accountable for the service learning. You should only be doing the research. I hope that is completely clear. If anybody sees that both of those assignments are showing up as being due, email me right away, and I will take care of it as soon as I possibly can. All right. Now, with the Nick and I were talking a little bit before we started. He's been telling me about some of the things he's been doing for the texture and color project. A texture and color project, I'm going to get to that on my side here really quick. Let's see, I'm going to, as soon as it pops up, I'm going to share my page. All right, here we go. Now for the texture and color tiles, what the important thing is, you are going to be making, or you are responsible for making 12 tiles altogether, 6 texture tiles and 6 color tiles. The box that we gave you with that has the kit is made with corrugated cardboard, and it was intended for you to cut that box up into 4x4 squares so that you could use that for this project. Nick was also using things like cereal box cardboard and other stuff. And to be completely honest, it does not matter what you use. If you can't use the cardboard box because you don't have access to it, you can use something else. But I would recommend not using anything flimsier than cardboard from a cereal box, for example. I would recommend regular corrugated cardboard, like from a typical Amazon box that you get through the mail. And you're going to cut that cardboard into those 4-inch by 4-inch tiles so that you can apply color and texture to them. Some of the things that I've seen in the past, I showed you guys several examples. I think that these are some good things to look at down here. Some of the things that I've seen in the past have been pretty awful. I suggest going to paint stores or paint counters at hardware stores and getting some of their free guidebook, idea books and color chips for the colors, and that's a great thing to do. Please do that if you can, and you can use that for your collages. You can also make collages from old magazines if you're able to get a hold of old magazines. But I know all of you guys are artists, and all of you guys are functioning as professional artists going through this program. So when you do your color collage for the cube, I know that you already know a bit about color theory, and we talked about the color wheels. I've given everybody at least 4 different websites to go to about the color wheels. Each of them have different color calculators. They each talk about several different color schemes, and the principal color schemes that we are talking about for this class include monochromatic, which is all one color, shades of one color; achromatic, which is all shades of black, gray, or white. So I guess if it's shades, it's going to be all shades of gray. Um, excuse me. Complementary. And complementary is colors from opposite sides of the color wheel. Tertiary, which is 3 colors spaced evenly around the color wheel. Analogous, which is colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Example of that is if your principal color is red, the analogous colors are going to be orange and purple. Then another one is the tetrad, which is 4 different colors spaced evenly around the color wheel. And then one of the ones that can be a little bit unsettling is there's randomized colors. And that can be one of your color schemes as well if you want to do that. But to be clear, when you're building the color tiles, what you're going to do is, you see these are cubes. You have this white cube here is, let's see, I'm going to make that bigger. This white cube is the texture cube. The cube next to it, right here, is the color collage cube. Both of these are made with 4" by 4" square tiles that were cut out, and then the textures and the colors are applied to them. For the color, you're going to pick 3 different color schemes for those 6 tiles. That's 3 different color schemes. Say one of the color schemes is analogous, one of the color schemes is complementary, and one of the color schemes is monochromatic. Then for each of those 3 color schemes, 2 of the tiles you're going to make collages following that color scheme. And say, for example, if one of your color schemes is analogous, 2 of these tiles for this cube you're going to make with collages that are analogous. One's going to be analogous around red, for example. One's going to be analogous around blue. If one of your color schemes is complementary, then for one of the 2 tiles that you're doing with the complementary color scheme, you're going to make with, for example, green and red, and then the other one might be blue and orange. All right? Does that make sense? And then the last 2 tiles, you're going to be doing both with the same, the third color scheme that you've picked, ideally with 2 different colors again, or 2 different principal colors on that. Say if your third color scheme is achromatic, then both the tiles are going to be in shades of gray. But I want you to look at how this person has done their collages. They've used several different pieces of paper, not just 3 or 4. Like this one, these are interesting graphic designs, but they are not very good for collages. Because this only has 4 pieces. This only has 5 pieces. This has several pieces that are torn out and cut out from magazines and carefully put together so you can see them working with the colors, the specific color schemes. So this is more successful than this one with the felt. And since you guys are functioning artists, I know you know how to do a collage. And so, something like this with just 3 different pieces is not going to cut it. And if you get a poor grade on it, that's fine. You can go back, redo it, and turn it in. That's great. The other thing that I want you to look at is really good. This one, look at this, how interesting the textures are. So for the first cube, it's all about color scheme. The 6 tiles that you use for that first cube, 2 each are going to be made following 3 different color schemes. So 2 for each of the 3 color schemes. For your texture cube, each of the 6 tile faces are going to have a different texture on it. Now, in the assignment description, I talk about going on a senses walk and really paying attention to what's around you. This person collected a lot of different interesting textural stuff while they went walking. It looks like right here. I don't know what this is from. I don't know what this is from. It doesn't really matter because it is fantastically cool texture-wise. Now on this white one, they did something really interesting too. They found little short tubes and glued them to the surface of this. They found pieces of bark and glued them to the surface of this. They found little squiggly wires. It looks like these are springs from click pens that they straightened out and glued on that. But what makes these really interesting is the fact that the artist on this spray painted their whole cube white. The artist on this one spray painted their whole cube yellow. And I think that is absolutely fascinating because we can really, that forces our eye to only look at the texture. So I think that was a really good solution. And I recommend that in the assignment description. Now, something else I want you to pay attention to is that this artist here sent in 2 photos. One photo shows 3 faces of the texture cube and 3 faces of the collage cube. They turned the cube upside down and around so that in the second photo, I see 3 different faces of the texture cube and 3 different faces of the collage cube. The reason why that is important is I've had people turn things in before where they thought they were doing that, but they didn't reference the first photo. So what I got was actually pictures of them just turning the cube around with the same upper texture showing the whole time. I only saw 5 of the 6 textures, or the same kind of thing here. Person only turned the cube a little bit, so I only saw 4 of the 6 collages. So reference your first photo before you turn this in, and make sure that I can see all 6 different faces in your 2 photos. Does that make sense? Nick, does that make sense the
Yep.
way I've described it? Okay.
Yeah, it does. I had also sent you a picture of all 6 sides of my cube. It should be in your inbox. Because while you were talking about this, I was realized, oh, I forgot I took pictures. I might want to send it to him.
Okay, let's see. I don't see it in my. Well, let's see. Hold on a sec here. I do not see it in my inbox yet.
Mhm. It's probably taking a while, but I did send it. Otherwise, I'm probably gonna have to just send it one at a time.
Okay, I want to. Somebody else did send me something just now that I saw, and I wanted to share it with people. Let's see if I can. I don't know. Let's see. And I wanted to. Okay, yeah, it hasn't shown up, Nick. I'm going to do this other thing really quick, and then hopefully. Oh, garbage! I can't see it. Okay, give me just a second. Let's see if I can pull it up a different way. Because this person just shared with me their biomorphic abstraction, and I think it's absolutely perfect to talk about. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to show a couple examples of people's biomorphic abstractions that they've turned in. And I'm going to just talk about each of them. I I think you guys can see. Let's see. All right. All right. Let's see if we can share this really quick here. Okay. All right. I'm hoping you guys can see this. This is an excellent example of the biomorphic abstraction carving. There's a couple reasons why this is such a good example, and I'm gonna talk about it and share why, and then I'm gonna stop sharing and go to another one, and just point out the really good features, and then as soon as I can see my email shows me that Nick's work, the photo he just sent me, then we'll see that too. Okay, now look at this biomorphic abstraction. The reason why I like this so much, or there's several reasons. One is this no longer looks like that block of foam that everybody was given. I mean, it's obvious that the volume fits within the block of foam, but it does not look like the block of foam. And there's a couple reasons. One is it does not share any of the contours of the block of foam. The second reason is that the surfaces have all been smoothed, so they do not retain that flatness of the block of foam. Now, this is not so smooth that it doesn't look like it's um, a balloon animal or anything like that. It's not that smooth, but it is very, very smooth. It's obvious that they've sanded this down, they've carved it down. What I like about it is that it feels the smooth curves of it feel very organic to me, and that's the reason for this exercise. We get, I don't know if you can see where my cursor is, but on the top part of this, we have this shape that looks kind of like a squashed C with the opening to the lower left. And on the bottom, it looks almost like an upside down G, uh, slightly at a slight diagonal angle. But I'm just saying those are rough shapes. What I like about this, one of the things I like about it is that different forms smoothly morph into other forms. We don't have any sharp edges, and it feels kind of like that organic gooiness that is really makes us think of organic growth, like folding mushroom caps or things like that. So I think that is an excellent example. And I'm going to work to find another really good example. Well, there have been a lot of really good examples. And again, I'm sorry. As soon as I can, I'll be grading this weekend and giving everybody feedback. Now, here's another one that I want to share that is cool because it is not at all the same as the one we just saw. Okay. Now, I like this one for several reasons as well. Two of the main reasons are, one, it does not look like the block at all. Notice that the contours are very different. The outline is. This person has also done some very interesting things to move the surface of the carving away from the flat surface of the block. And they've used a lot of the volume of the block. Some of the things I like about this, there's a hole in there. I also like the fact that it feels like this material going around is almost like being pulled into the hole. It's responding to the hole somehow. these shapes, they aren't smoothed perfectly by the sandpaper or anything, and that's fine. They still feel very organic. They still feel overall very smooth. And when this person applies the paper mache, they're going to smooth it down quite a bit. But I love this because those folds feel like folded skin or folded meat. You know, it feels organic. It doesn't feel like that block anymore. Another thing I like about it, it kind of reminds me of coral. The shape does. And you know, this is another really good example of the kind of thing that we're looking for. And I'm quiet because my computer is working on this. Okay, I'm going to share another one that's a really good example. This is another excellent example. Again, those two things, this does not relate directly to that shape of the block. You can see that the contour is completely different. The person has made these droplet-like forms that look like that real slow motion photography when something falls into fluid and it makes droplets pop out of like a puddle or whatever. Those are really interesting forms. They smoothed it quite a bit. It's not, again, it's not completely and totally smooth, but what I really like about it are those two things that pull it away from the block. The first thing that pulls it away, the contour is not the same. The second is that this person has manipulated the surface so it doesn't share any surface with that original block. These forms look like droplets. They don't look like the typical organic form we've been talking about, but they do feel organic because they have that kind of water, that odd water. How do I want to say it? Um, Almost geometry to it. It's a very interesting effect, and that it looks kind of like what water would look like if it could intelligently uh, create its own feet or something. I like that. This could be smoothed down a little bit more. You still see some flat planes in the round areas, but that's something that could be done with just a few minutes with sandpaper. And then when the person applies paper mache to this, it's going to look really, really good. I think that's another excellent example. So I am working on finding other examples here. I'm also seeing some stuff that people have turned in that doesn't quite have that smooth surface to it. So a lot of people have, and it looks really good. Oh, here's another excellent example to show people. So the things I'm not showing you are ones that I don't think are quite there yet. And I will make comments and let people know about that so you can work on that and get that to a really good spot. This is another excellent example of the biomorphic abstraction. This is quite a bit simpler form than the water droplet one earlier. But again, two really important things. It does not share an outline or contour with that block. And none of the surfaces that remain are surfaces from that original block. So this is an excellent example. We don't have holes through it. We have these dips. We have this thing that feels like a fleshy protrusion here with a little bit of a fold and a little bit of a tunnel going in. This person was able to do an exceptional job sandpapering it down so it does feel very smooth. Or of course, I can't touch it. By that I mean visually, it feels very smooth. I think this is another excellent example. And I am just going to go through and share as many of these examples as I can of good examples of this. I'm quiet because I'm pulling up images and then sharing my screen. All right, this is another really good example. Again, those two big things, it doesn't share any contours with that original block, and it doesn't have any of the original surface that that original block had. Uh, what, what I like about this is these kind of fleshy shelves that are in it. This is really nice, this shape right here, where the um, the the horizontal part that's one shelf down from the very top of it, kind of comes in a little bit of a shoulder right there to where that top part joins into it. I really like that. Now this one, it looks like there's still a lot of the carving planes that we can see. So this person, before they put paper mache on it, could smooth it out a bit more with the sandpaper. But this is looking really good. And I stopped sharing because I'm finding another one. Okay, almost there. All right, this is another good example. This is the one that I was trying to show earlier that it wasn't working out. This person, again, those two things, it doesn't share contour with that original block, and it doesn't share any surfaces with that original block. The form is really very interesting. I really like the form. What this person can do before applying the paper mache is sandpaper it down quite a bit. And I think smoothing it down is going to really go a long way in completing that biomorphic abstraction feel, because the shape, the form itself feels very organic. And I think just smoothing that down a little bit is going to bring it a long way into making it feel like a complete object or completed object. So that's another really good example. I'm really impressed with the quality of things that people have been turning in. I'm very exciting to see that. All right, here's another great one. And Emily, I know that you can't see this right now. I hope you can watch it later. I'm hoping that this is really helping, showing the student work that is really uh, sharing or really working towards what we're talking about with the biomorphic abstraction carving. Now this one, it does share a little bit more of the rough outline of the block, but again, the contour is very different. It's not the block. None of the surfaces are the same as with the block. That bottom part is smoothed really well to the point where it feels like the rest of this is almost intentional. Now, if they wanted to, they could smooth this more. That would look really cool. I think that this is looking really very good. Some of the areas feel to me like almost driftwood like smoothness, and then coming up to more freshwood type areas where like up in this area with these protrusions coming out on the right hand side. I like the fact this odd looking hole in the middle that is this shape is an almond shape. Another word for that shape is mandorla, where it's an oval that's pointed at the two narrow ends. I think this is really looking very interesting. Okay, sorry, the pause in my talking comes because my computer is not pulling things up immediately. All right, here's another good example. All right, now this I think is kind of fun. It looks to me almost like a nose, but again, there's no surface. I mean, this surface is pretty close to the surface of the block, but whoever the artist is, they smoothed it down so it's not the same surface. The contour, the outline of it is not the same as the block. We have a hole going through it. We have this kind of fun organic shape going right there. And it looks, this would be very uh, nice to finish it off with some more sandblasting or sandpapering before applying the paper mache. You know, rounding this edge a little bit more, smoothing these contours more, but this is looking really good. Yeah, I'm seeing some excellent examples. I'm just going to show, I think this would probably be the last example that I share, because I think you guys, I want to show a lot of different examples because I want you to see that there are a lot of different variations that can be done with this and still fall within the parameters. This is really exceptional. This, um, again, it's a contour is very different from the original block. Again, none of the surface is the same as the original block. The person is sanding it down, smoothing it out. This could be sandpapered down a little bit more, and that would be great. But I really love this form. The hole in the middle looks very different than the other holes that we've seen. Nobody's doing the same thing at all. And I think that these are really wonderful looking. Now, even if your form is not quite here, even if it's still a little bit square or blocky, I hope that you understand what I'm saying when I'm talking about sanding things down and making smoother, blending the shapes together. It needs to feel and look organic. This is not just carve something out of foam. We want it to flow smoothly. We want it to feel like it's an organic form. And I think with these uh, dozen examples that I've shown, it's a pretty good sampling of what we've seen so far from the class. So this is great. Now I'm going to check that my inbox again, see if that thing has come through so I can share the images with from Nick. Oh,
I also
and
have
it's
them.
still,
I also have them pulled up in the Teams chat. So if it's not on there, I can just see if it'll work on the chat. But if not, I guess I'll just try sending them one at a time.
let's see, it's not, I am not as facilitous as I wish that I could be with the images and all the chat. All right, Nick. Yeah, it's not showing with mine. So let's not worry about that. We'll talk about that next week if that's okay. Um, I
All
I
right.
did want to share images of what you were doing with the texture, and I think that would be valuable. But I'm not. It is getting to the point where it's frustrating me that the technology is not doing what we need it to be doing. And I'm sure it has a lot more to do with this particular user's interface, with that is to say me, than the actual technology. Let's see. Nick, did you already submit any of those on the
No, I
where?
haven't. I've mainly just been like gradually making 12 cubes.
Okay,
That is what
12
I'm supposed to
squares.
do, right? Yeah, 12.
Well,
That
you're
is what I
making
am
12
supposed to do.
squares. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You make the
Okay.
12 squares. Okay, that sounds great. When you submit it, then I will pull it up for next, and we'll talk about that next week. So
Okay.
I think that'll be great. But I'm really hoping the two examples of application of artistic critique that we talked about today, I think are really excellent examples. So if I could get another person or two to volunteer and turn this in before next week, that would be truly awesome, because then we could go over it again. It's fantastic to me to see what people are doing. I think you guys are really exceptional. So again, I'm going to fall break starts Thursday next week. Is that right?
What?
Does fall break start Thursday next week? Is that right?
I think so, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Okay, because we're gonna do our class on Wednesday night, like we normal, except for today. This week, my internet was wonky. We're gonna do our class normal, and everybody will know where they stand midway through the term, because grades will be caught up and everything too. But and then next week we're going to be talking a little bit about what we're doing. We're going to see examples like Nick's example of what he's doing with texture and color, and see some other examples that people are doing. And I'm also going to be introducing people to the idea of conceptual art, which we're going to work on over the next week or so. Okay, and then we're going to circle around and come back to this ongoing biomorphic abstraction project and see where people are. So I hope this short discussion has really helped people get a clearer idea of where they are. And again, if you need to resubmit stuff, if you need to work on stuff and resubmit it, that is completely fine. That is what this class is for. So if you don't get the points that you want and you need to work on it more, um, go do that and then resubmit it. That's great. And again, I'm releasing another module in the process of service learning or research learning, whichever path you're doing. And if you see, like for example, if you picked service learning but you only see research learning, let me know. Or if you see that you're supposed to be doing the assignments for both, let me know, because you are only going to be doing, you should only be doing the assignments for one of those two paths that you picked. And I made sure that I had sorted that all out a while ago, but if it's not being sorted out, let me know as soon as you possibly can so I can take care of it. All right. Now, I hope you guys have a wonderful week and weekend, and I look forward to talking to you all next week. If you have any questions about any of the stuff that's been happening, let me know as soon as you can, and I will get back to you right away. All righty?
All right.
All right. Thank you, Emily, and thank you, Nick. And I look forward to talking to everybody next week.
Same here. Bye.